This is Note Taking Guide 2.5 for Math 1. Today we're going to talk about absolute values and how to solve their inequalities. So the very first thing I want to remind you is what an absolute value stands for. So again, an absolute value, if I had the absolute value of -7, almost always you guys know to just tell me that the answer is 7. If you had the absolute value of 7, then the answer would also be 7. What that absolute value symbol does is it helps you to know the distance from the number line of 0. So what we're asking you to figure out here is how far is -7 away from 0 on the number line, and how far is 7 away from 0 on the number line. Well, they have the same distance away from 0. It was +7 in distance and +7 in distance. And the reason that it's positive is because distance can't be negative. Think about it. Even when you drive your car in reverse, you still go positive on the count of miles. So what we're going to do today is we're going to solve these absolute value inequalities, and then we're going to graph them. So really what we're deciding here is that if I have this absolute value inequality right here that says x plus 5 has to be less than 9. Well, what's inside here could have been positive, or what's inside here could have been negative to come out as that same number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take into account that both of those things could have happened. So I'm going to solve the inequality x plus 5 is less than 9, but I'm also going to solve the inequality x plus 5 is less than -9. But I have to make a change right here too, because do you remember the rule a couple of sections ago where we said if we divided or multiplied by -1 we had to flip the inequality sign? Well, how did we get this to be a -9 right here? Well, when we changed that to a -9, we had to have either multiplied or divided by a -1. So when I do this and I set it equal to that -1, I actually have to flip the inequality sign for that to happen. So I actually have to flip this to greater than right there. So that's something that's kind of hard to remember to do on these absolute value ones. But again, if we're going to do it for the positive and the negative, when we do it for the negative one, we have to flip that. All right, so we flip that inequality sign, and then we're just going to solve it like normal. So we're going to minus the 5. So we have x is greater than 4. We're going to minus the 5. So we have x is greater than -14. I might have said the sign wrong over here. This is the less than. I can't remember if I said less than or greater than over there. But then we're just going to graph it. So we have x is less than 4, which means we have an open circle at 4, and we're going in the less than direction. And then we have x is greater than -14. So -14 is clear down over here somewhere. It's going to be open and then greater than this direction. So my answer is actually the overlap part. So it starts here, it stops here, and my answer is the overlap part in the middle that I've represented with my pink. Okay. All right, let's try another one. We have b right here to look at. So again, the same thing here. We're going to write it out as two separate inequalities. So we have 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 3. And we have 2x plus 7 is less than or equal to -3. Again, we had to flip that inequality sign because we changed it to a negative so that we could solve it. So we're just going to subtract this 7 over. And we get 2x is greater than or equal to -4. Divide by 2. So x is greater than or equal to -2. We're going to solve the same way over here. Subtract the 7. So we get 2x is less than or equal to -10. Divide by 2. And x is less than or equal to -5. So then we're going to solve or graph both of them on the same graph. So x is greater than or equal to -2. Greater than or equal to -2 would be solid right here and this direction. Less than or equal to -5. I think I am not, yeah, okay. Negative 5 is right here. So less than or equal to negative 5 would be right here. And less than would be this direction for our solution. Okay, let's look at another problem. So what we've got to do here is we've got to solve this. We're again solving it two ways. We're going to do 4x is less than or equal to 20. And the other equation is 4x is greater than or equal to negative 20, because we have to change the sign, flip the inequality. Divide both sides by 4. We get x is less than or equal to 5. Divide both sides by 4, and we get x is greater than or equal to negative 5. So then when we graph that, where x is less than or equal to 5, so solid, less than this direction. Then where x is greater than or equal to negative 5, so solid at negative 5, greater than or equal to this direction. And so our solution, again, this one is an and one because it's overlapping. Our solution is going to be that overlapping in the center. All right, next one. Again, separate it into two separate ones, and then let's solve it. So we'll have 6 minus 3x is greater than 12, and 6 minus 3x is less than negative 12. And we're just going to solve it. Minus the 6 over. So a negative 3x is greater than 6. Divide by negative 3. Now, alarm going off in our head tells us when we divide by a negative, we have to flip the inequality sign. So make sure you flip the inequality sign there. Again, over here, subtract that 6. We get a negative 3x is less than a negative 18. Divide by a negative 3. So again, we're like, oh, I got to flip the inequality sign. So I get x is greater than 6. So then we're going to graph those. X is less than negative 2. So open circle at negative 2, heading in the less than direction. X is greater than 6. So this direction. So that one's an or one on that absolute value inequality. Okay, so one thing that I need to make sure that you do understand though is, because I know there's going to be one like this on your homework, is what are you going to do if you have like x minus 5 is less than or equal to negative 8? Now we said beforehand that inequalities, if you remember, like I asked you what's the absolute value of 7 and you said 7, what's the absolute value of negative 7 and you said positive 7. Our solutions to begin with can only be positive when we're talking about inequalities. So this right back here, saying that this is a negative number from our absolute value, we can't actually get straight out of that absolute value a negative number. So when we're solving them just a minute ago, you'll be like, well, why do we set it equal to the negative then? Well, we were talking about what this inside part value could be. This inside value could have been positive and this inside value could have been negative. But we can't actually have the absolute value of this inside value being negative. So when you get to something like this, there's actually no solution to this. You cannot solve it if the absolute value is set equal to a negative number. Okay, so keep that in mind while you're looking through your homework tonight. You guys, good luck on your homework. Make sure that you finish the checkpoint and come and show it to me before you move on to your homework assignment. Thanks. Have a great night.